welcome to the day 4 of career guidance talks that we have been having, hosted by Leela Gurukulam. This, as for people who are joining for the first time today, or for people who are listening to it later on, this is a series of career discovery series that we have, where we are talking to people from different backgrounds and different professions, understanding what they do, how they got there, what does their career look like, what does their job look like, what does their profession look like, what it takes to be there, and some interesting facts about their careers that we don't know about, and to figure out what else is there for us to know and appreciate it to the fullest. So this is one of the things that we're doing, and we so far have spoken to people from three different backgrounds: one a scientist, other one from the knowledge management background, one from IT in product management, and today we have Deepti Hasabi with us. So she, from what I know personally, she's a dancer, trainer, and she is, as a professional, also a dance movement-based therapist. And she's a lot more than that. We will discover it today. And then as we go, we will get to know a lot more about what she does and how she ended up in this profile, what is her background, and what is there for the children of today who are listening to it. If they have to get into this profile, what is it that they need to know, learn, or love so that they can excel in this? So that's the topic for today. Welcome, Diptima. So,
Thank you so much, Bharati. Shubham.
for people who are on the session today, if you feel free, if you want to, please join on video so that we can have a good interaction, we can connect well. So yeah, Diptima, your profession of what you do today. You are a dance movement-based therapist. You're also a Kathak dancer. You're also doing a lot of shows. You're training children, from what I know. So if you can just help us understand your profession a little more in detail, that will be a great start.
Okay, so to understand my profession better, what will be interesting is that whatever I am doing now has a base of me being a mother. So it all started from there. And understanding movement, understanding dance is what led me into dance movement therapy. And what led me into dance movement therapy is also my passion for dance. So, as a child, I remember dancing, and like everybody else, right? No proper coaching or training, but in school programs or events and programs, whenever there was an opportunity, I wanted to dance on the stage, off the stage. And I've got shouted by my parents because I was dancing way too much. Unnecessary dancing was being done. But then slowly I realized I did have a passion to learn dance. And when I learned classical dance form, Kathak was a calling for me, and I started exploring Kathak and understanding the intricacies of what really is a Shastriya Nritya. The
Mm-hmm.
English version dilutes it, but when we come to Sanskrit, it's a Nritya that is born out of the Shastras. So the scriptures guide us with what really is a dance and what really is Abhinaya. How do you present yourself on the stage and what it does for oneself is
Mm-hmm.
something that I started exploring. And I was pregnant. I had to take a break. My son was born, and post delivery also, I had to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I realized I miss dancing so much. And I did go through a phase of pregnancy blues, I mean, postnatal blues, and I was really dull. And I was not even working that time. It was a conscious decision not to work as an engineer. I come from an engineering background.
Yeah.
So I took a break, and then I realized I just have to dance to get out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And dance is what took me through that process. I felt a lot better. I started regaining my confidence. I started connecting with people. I started connecting with myself a lot more when I started dancing. And over the years, I explored a lot. I learned a lot more in depth about what really is Shastriya Nritya, what is the music, what is the emotion, the navarasas, the different types of hastas, the body movements, the eye movements, and so many things. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized dance is really therapeutic. Dance can help me with anything. And if
Mm-hmm.
that can do to, if that is the impact that dance can have on me, then I'm sure it can have the same impact on anyone else who picks it up. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't expect people to enjoy classical dance. It's not everybody's cup of tea. And I don't expect anybody to study as much as I did about a classical dance or any kind of Nritya Shastra or a Natya Shastra. And so I ventured into dance movement therapy. That's how I landed there. And after that, I understood that there is a Western psychology perspective that comes along where from 1940s onwards, people have worked on it. But
Mm-hmm.
then when I connected the dots back, we have always had dance movement therapy in India forever and ever. Nataraja has always been there. He, as Shiva, who lost his wife Sati, had a big catharsis, and he is known to dance his Tandava.
Mm-hmm.
And then at every occasion, in every occasion, we have dance as part of a community. It brings the community together. We have folk dances, we have wedding dances, we have dance for every occasion in our country.
Yes.
So that was a connection of dots for me. I could understand how the Indian psychology and Western psychology are interlinked. And the depth that Indian psychology offers is a lot more. And I enjoyed doing it the Indian way. I'm glad that it took classical dance form of India and then dug deeper into it. And that has been my dance journey so far.
Great. Thanks a lot for the detailed explanation and how you got into it. It's usually the story, right? It's more than somebody picking up a profession because they want to do it as a job. It's the emotion that is there behind it. It's a love for something that you want to do. That's usually what drives a person to get there. Interestingly, so you did also mention that you're from an engineering background. Before you got into dance as a profession, did you do any other jobs? Were you working elsewhere in the corporate setup or doing something else?
Yeah, I had a big time corporate career. I was a chip designer. I
Uh-huh.
was a engineer that used to place the transistors on the chip, analog
Okay.
transistors and analog devices on the chip. So
Uh-huh.
I was into that field before I left my job, and I enjoyed that job. I
Mhm.
did not find difficulties in the job per se, but
Mhm.
then the corporate structure is what pushed me to skip that and drop that and look for something else.
Yeah.
But job per se was pretty interesting. It was a lot of spatial awareness, and I have been into that space. Like, spatial awareness is a big part of dance also,
Exactly. That's what I
right?
want to come to.
Yeah.
So there is a rhythm to it, right? When you're saying that you had to place the transistors on a chip, well, it's all minor, small pieces of it, right? It's not like a huge place where you just pick it up from your fingers and put it there. It needs precision, it needs a rhythm, and it needs a lot of balance and focus. How does that connect to your passion for dance or your practice of dance? Is there somewhere is it linked?
Interesting question because it's got two connotations. One, yes, there is a rhythm to it. There is a structure, there is spatial arrangement, there is geometry and all the physical sciences there.
Mm-hmm.
Along with that, what my job as an analog layout designer was to understand the flow of electricity in a chip.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it comes to digital devices, the flow is very taken care of. It can be coded, it can be it can be automated completely. But my job as an analog engineer was
Mm-hmm.
to understand how the current flows and where can I avoid antennas, because we are working at nano scales, right? So nanometer scales, and understand where exactly the loops can form, where it can cause a harm, where can there be opens or shorts or all of that, and manage the flow. And dancing is so much to do with that.
Yeah.
There is a flow that is involved. There is a music, there is a rhythm, a complete different kind of rhythm as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I think whatever I have done in my life so far, they have all connected back to this. There is a flow, there is a rhythm, there is a geometry, there is a spatial arrangement. And and all of that connects so well with psychology also. Like dance movement therapy, one part of it is the dance and rhythm and music and movement, but a major part of it, the background for it, is psychology. And
Mm-hmm.
psychology is all about understanding the connections in the mind.
Yes.
So circuits and connections, the laws that apply to electronics apply to the mind in different ways, but they do. So
Yes.
yeah, that engineering background did help me.
Absolutely. And while you are a dancer, you are on the stage, you are in the flow. At the same time, you are expressing your emotions. And it's all about expressing your emotions, right? As an art form or expressive art form. Emotions is what it is. And if you had to connect it back to the job that you are doing, the work that you are doing, you are also working with the flow of energies, the flow of electricity, which is energy, energy in motion, emotion, emotion here and emotion there. So It's a good connection that you can bring it out there. So if I have to ask you a question about this further, to say, okay, what you do in life as a child, what you were doing, and your passion for dance and all of those things that happened, and the job that you took, was it somehow influenced? Was there any connection at all? If at all there was anything, did your choice of your career or a job that you took had got anything to do with your personal liking or choices or something like that? Or is it something that happened because you got placed?
Uh, I always wanted to do architecture, Bharatji,
Mm-hmm.
because I enjoy that geometry and spatial arrangements, coming back to that. But then my father did not allow me, my family, and many people, counselors then, right? Um, they discouraged me from becoming an architect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was good at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was an artist. I always knew that I'm an artist from inside out. So architecture was a field. I love mathematics, I love physics, I love network analysis. But then architecture is very passionate. I love architecture and designing and interiors and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was close to engineering. So I did not get a chance to explore that. The next closest thing that I wanted to do was electrical and electronics, and I got into that. And I was very, very sure that I will choose a job. um, I passed out in that core recession time, right? The peak recession time where everybody was being thrown out of jobs. But I held on, I
Uh-huh.
held my ground, and I did not join any offer that I got. I
Mm-hmm.
waited for a hardware company to um, do the job interview, and I worked hard and got into that company. And even in the company there were many profiles available as an hardware engineer, but
Mm-hmm.
I chose specifically layout designing because that is the space that is very close to architecture. In
Yeah.
architecture you design buildings of multiple levels, multiple stories, and chips. When you go to the level of transistors, it's similar. There are multiple stories, and each layer has a arrangement, each layer has a visually appealing geometry also. So I think it's all interconnected, and me being an artist always helps, because when I look back now, when I was doing layout designing, it had everything to do about symmetry, and artists and symmetry go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
it's all interconnected in a way when I look back.
So interesting that you mentioned that, because architecture, as an architecture of the macro level of building big buildings and all of that, is at one level. Designing a chip, the people who do that, they're also called architects because they're architecting the whole system. And that is the micro level. So you ended up being an architect any which ways, not at the macro level, but at a micro level.
Yes.
So great to see that. And you also mentioned a couple of things that you said, right? You did your bachelor's in electronics and electrical, and then you ended up doing chips which are going to be used, could be in computers or any of the IT equipments that we use. So these are the few things that we were trying to debunk and also make people aware of what different things happen within a domain. So when you talk about computer science as a master's, as a bachelor's or whatever, right? People think only people who know or have studied computer science are the ones that get into doing anything related to computers. But electrical engineer plays a role there. Somebody from a chemical engineering background who needs to understand how silicon works, they play a role there. And you mentioned that you had a lot of offers that came to you as an electrical electronics engineer graduate. What were the different companies who are offering you? What kind of jobs that you got offers for?
Oh, since I passed out from a triple E background, electrical and electronics engineering background, I could pick up any job that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with BSNL as a company, telephone company,
Mm-hmm.
to BHEL, the Heavy Electronics Limited company, and there were electrical and electronics companies like Bell,
Mm-hmm.
Bharat Electronics Limited.
Yeah.
I could join those government, so-called government companies led by the central government.
Mm-hmm.
And I could also join software companies like Infosys and Wipro generally are the first companies that come and do the placements, TCS and
Yes.
all of that in a college, right? But ours was unlucky or lucky batch. I don't know. None of the software companies came
That
initially.
was the time of recession, though,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's big.
So it was shocking that our college, almost 60% of the engineering graduates would be placed either in TCS or Infosys. In
Mm-hmm.
my batch, I think Infosys recruited some 25. 25 people, and TCS recruited some 12 or 13 people. So it
Yeah.
was really shocking. And I did not even give those interviews because I was very sure I'm not going to go there. But
Mm-hmm.
these were the few companies that did offer job during that era. And post that, like if I go back to past and now the present, um, I went and spoke to my HOD just last year, and the companies that are looking for electronics and electrical, especially electrical engineers, are the companies that manufacture electric cars and electric vehicles. That's a field that is picking up. And it's amazing to see when I go back to my college now, there is an entire section dedicated for research and technology and development of electrical vehicles.
Yeah.
So that is a field that I find really interesting now.
Great. This actually brings me to two interesting topics that we should discuss. First one is about the career choices that we make and companies that we get placed into. A lot of students, they may or may not know that even though I am doing a master in a specific profile, it need not mean that I'm going to work in the same domain. You, as you mentioned, you could land up a job in a software company doing something else, especially. But because you wanted to pursue it in what you mastered, which is something to do with electrical circuits and mechanical parts of the analog computing and all of that, that is what you chose. You wanted to go there. So just to put the uh, thought out there, it's not that you studied and mastered something, your bachelor is mastering into some area. It doesn't mean that you will have options only there, but you'll have options that is open to a multiple different aspects of it. That is one of the things. And then talking about the past and the present, I think it's been 15 plus years since you graduated. Then how people saw electrical engineering. We'll come back to your dance in a while, but how people saw electrical electronics and what it was applied to at those days, and what kind of companies we used to come and recruit people, students, and what they would do to what it has become now. There is a significant drift, as you mentioned, right? There's a dedicated section focusing on R&D for EVs and all of that. Because EV is something that happened newly. There was a technology shift in automobile, and everybody's talking about EVs, and there's a big change that is happening. How do you think this would evolve further in the future? This particular area or this domain of electrical engineering, what are the new things that may happen? Just a guess or imagination or creativity, right? What do you think would these engineers be doing in the future?
I
Today they
think
were working, earlier they were working on analog circuits, then they're looking at designing electric cars. What next?
No, I think it's all about renewable energy sources.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the future is taking us. So I'm sure the electrical background people will work on energy generation and focus towards renewable energies. That's my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where clean sources of energy is what I look at for electrical and electronics graduates. So
Absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting again that you're mentioning this one, right? And you are somebody who comes from that. You're not been in the domain for a long time. You're not hands-on, though you're working in it, but you know so much. When we were looking up all the future careers for 2040 and beyond, right? 15 years from now, based on the technology evolution that's happening and what's coming into the field of education and the new job requirements that are there, renewable energy, sustainable energies, people who will manage it, understand it, and make sure that it is implemented well. People talk a lot about saving the planet, and a lot of things are happening, right? But how practically can it be done at a grassroots level? And how can this be implemented as a solution for the future cities and future factories and all of that? That is a big thing on the future career list. So sustainable energy domain is a big area there. People who can understand it and make sure that people practice it, people who can design smart cities, people who can make sure that energy efficient products are discovered and developed and put into action. Those are the new careers of the future that we're looking at. And as you rightly mentioned, all the engineers who are working on making things earlier, which was big, heavy, monstrous machines, the CPUs, to working on electric vehicles now. And going forward, maybe there will be a pocket sized, a mobile sized power generator, right? That could be the future going ahead, and how to manage it and how to make sure that it is well used could be a future to go to. Thanks for that. And let's come back to dance. When did you decide that you will take dance as a profession? You said that your interest got triggered. You wanted to do it as a therapy for yourself to get back on your health, your wellness, and whatnot. But when did you think of taking it as a profession?
That was not a conscious choice. It just organically happened. It was also, I think I would give a lot of credit to all the mentors that I have been with, whether
Mm-hmm.
it is my dance teacher or Mas Kandamira, who pushed me into teaching, right? It started from there. It was never a career option. It was always teach.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and as artists, at least in traditional Gurukulam methodologies, you're always pushed to mentor your juniors, right?
Mm-hmm.
It started from there. It was me teaching the younger ones, and slowly, slowly it picked up, and people started enjoying what I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And my teacher inspired me to start my own dance class sessions and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never taken as a career for money or anything. My
Mm-hmm.
initial intention was that I was learning from my teacher, and to be honest, dance or any classical art form is expensive. Whether
Yes.
it comes to costumes, the music, the stage preparation, the classes themselves, as you advance further, they are expensive. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought I will use my teaching so that I can generate enough money to support my own dance learning and classes and performances and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it started. And slowly, slowly, it started picking up, and I got a lot of calls for performances. And then it became a career organically. And the progression was very, very natural. And I started doing a lot of certifications because anyway, I was learning, certifications was just there. It was on the side that also was happening. And learning a lot about the theory behind the dance, the scriptures behind the dance is what led me into dance movement therapy. And that I took it up consciously as a choice. That was a conscious choice that I made.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneous learning and career in dance movement therapy is a choice that I made.
Beautiful. One is that you wanted to learn and teach to pass it forward. The other one was to support your further career, I mean, rather learning in the field so that you wanted to self-sustain and support it by yourself. Beautiful things. And how much do you think is the importance of having these expressive arts, performing arts, as a part of our education system, as a curriculum in these days? We know that in the olden days, people used to learn all the shastras, right? 64 kalas they used to learn, and dance and expressive arts was one of it. That was the way that Indian knowledge system or Indian education system was, how it was. But over the period of time, all of these things became extracurricular, as we say it, right? So you do this outside of your school, and it is not really important. If you have an exam, that is more important than your dance practice. That's how it came down for the last few generations that at least we were growing up. If somebody had to take up a 10 standard exam versus somebody mastering in a art form, 10 standard exam was given higher priority than this one because yeah, you can do it later. This is not important. This is not going to sustain you. This is not a career that you can take. You need to land a job. You need to learn and focus on academics. Is what we all were brought up as a narrative that we had. But if you look at today's day and age and the kind of learning that people need and the kind of careers that people will take up in the future, how important or significant you think is having these things included in the curriculum as a mainstream thing in a school, not being an extracurricular thing, how important it is to make it a mainstream, make it a part
Okay.
of the academics.
So I think you yourself have answered that, Bharatji.
Mm-hmm.
The very need is that there is so much importance given to academics
Mm-hmm.
that children need something to support their academic career.
Mm-hmm.
That's one part of it. Like 10 standard exams are very important, agreed. But
Mm-hmm.
then if you're giving an exam, what is the state of mind you need to have to write that exam? Right?
Right.
And what helps you with that? It is not studying that is going to help you with that. It's the expressive arts that come into play there to ensure that you are cool, you are calm, you are active, and
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you are fast. You are aware of how much to write, what
That's
not
good.
to write, or all of that comes with expressive arts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it has to go hand in hand. It cannot be just academics. It has to have expressive arts as a part of their learning process.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, coming to arts themselves, we are speaking about future careers. And the way the world is progressing, the mental health is a major area that needs focus today. And
Yes.
it is going to continue in the future too.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are going to be suffering, isolated families or the social media, the toxic work culture, whatever the reason may be, there is a big time need for mental health practitioners
Mm-hmm.
and expressive arts, whether it is dance, music, uh, any other kind of painting and drawing, and all of that put together are going to be mediums. There are typical counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists at play. But then these are the uh, mediums using which anybody can access their own mental well-being,
Yes.
right? They don't have to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist for their mental well-being. When it comes to expressive arts and expressive art therapists, you are going to gain a lot of wealth from them too. So it is going to pick up. Humanities is a career for the future, present and future.
Yeah. Again, that's another thing that keeps coming up when we're looking at the future careers. What are the skills that you need to essentially have? Everything is pointing towards majority, at least, out of the 100% of what you need, 80% goes towards humanities and human skills and expressive, creative profiles and all of that. It's again, it resonates so much with what you just mentioned. And for us as Indians, knowingly, unknowingly, good way, bad way, everybody outside of India, right, the in the West, they connect to India through the movies that they have seen or they've watched or they've made fun of, because every single scene, something good or bad happens, people are dancing. That is a way of expression that was something that they look at. And as soon as they see some Indians, that first thing that they do is the head shake and the dance expression, right? That is how dance is a part of us. And also the word Bharata, Bhava, Raga, Tala, Bharata, I think it's something that we all are. We are Bharatiyas and it's there within us. And somewhere it is being lost and thought as something external, not something internal. And like what you really mentioned very well is that expressing or writing an exam and putting your answers down there, how much to write, how fast to write, and how short to make it is a very good thought, right? Because when you're dancing, you have a stage that is your boundary. How much of the stage you need to engage, where you should stop, where you should know, how much of it should not be left void. It's a very beautiful thing of connecting to maybe exam writing, right? I can just recollect one of the funny things that happened to me when we were in the college. This was engineering, and I think it was the first year, first semester exams. We were a bunch of six friends, very close, and we all knew there's one guy who is he is not an academic brilliant, right? When we all go for exams, we know how much we have studied. We'll get 35 is all we know. But this guy, we enter the exam hall and he's taking additional sheets over additional sheets over additional sheets. And we're like, what the hell? He just told he is not prepared for the exam. He doesn't know anything. But he's taken six additional sheets where we have not even completed the first set of papers, that four papers that we get. But then we realized this guy's handwriting is so big that each character is so big that he cannot complete one answer in one sheet. It has to go to the next sheet. It's not the quality of the content, the quantity, it is the size of the characters. Because of which he had to take so many additional sheets. And somebody who picked up the paper and evaluated him at the end of it, he got 40 marks with all the additional sheets that he had taken. So, what is your canvas? How much you should express and how well, how quickly is, I think, what these applied art forms help us with, definitely.
Actually, adding on to that, Bharatji, it's not just about my expression, specifically when it comes to exam or any other performing arts, it is about the audience also, right?
Yes.
I might know everything. I
Mm-hmm.
might be brilliant at so many things, but ultimately I'm writing an exam so that I get marks,
Yes.
right? So I have to know who is the audience there, who is the person who's going to correct my papers. So
Mm-hmm.
accordingly, I have to write. Not because I know something, I write it on the paper. I
Mm-hmm.
write what will gain me marks, the style in which I will get marks,
Right.
right? Our professors, if you are, you are an engineering student and a
Yeah.
typical person who's written competitive exams, the way we were trained to write a theory exam versus a competitive exam was very different. So you have to know your audience, and that knowing audience comes if you are a performing artist.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, very well mentioned. Because when you're writing a theory exam, you need to write pages, 10-line answers, 15-line answers. But go to competitive exams, it's just one line. You need to put the same expression, but in single line or a single word. So how to condense it with one expression versus a prolonged performance. I think it's also coming back to that. Thanks a lot. Really interesting aspect. At this point, I would like to pause my questions and what I wanted to know about it and see if anybody from the crowd has anything to ask, say, share, whatever. So, want to take a few remarks and suggestions, questions from the crowd. If anybody has anything to ask, please feel free to unmute yourself. You can come on camera if you want to, or if you want to put something on the chat, please do that. We'll wait for you if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, Nirmaji.
I mean, actually, I have not changed my this thing, like it's Aruna actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I was just here, like, I mean, it was a very interesting journey actually. So I really found it very interesting. So a few things I wanted to ask. You mentioned about the certification part, right? So how important is certification if somebody wants to pursue dance as a career? And also, like if somebody, like say for example, maybe a seventh grader or 10th grader is considering dance as a career, what is that they have to plan for at this point in time? Like say for example, let me consider a 10th grader. So what is that they have to plan for, and what I mean, if at all they have to think about themselves 10 years down the line, what is that they can think of being or doing at that after 10 years?
Okay, so dance has two options. One is people dance just for the sake of hobby and just because they enjoy it and they like to engage with the audience with dance. That will not require any kind of certifications. It's your journey. Dance movement therapy comes from that approach. You dance for yourself, you dance for healing, you dance for enjoying, you dance for expressions. But when it comes to dance as a career, in India today, I'm specifically talking about in India. I'm sure something similar happens in the Western world also. Certifications are important today. Okay, I don't know 10 years down the line how the world is going to be. But today, if you have to get a job as a dance trainer in any institute or organizations, it's essential to have a certification, even if it is not a diploma or a degree certificate, but a certificate that says that you have learned dance for so many years, or you have participated in so and so programs, or you have been a part of such organizations, is what will give you that push towards getting that job. Okay, so that is essential today, and I hope it changes 10 years down the line, because not everybody really enjoys taking these certifications. And there is a lot of structure when it comes to doing a certificate course. So not many people like that. It puts them into a bracket. But today in India, to get a job as a dancer anywhere, they will ask either for your experience certificate or for your diploma certificate. So it's good to have, Arunaji. And as a child who is in 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th standard right now, if they want to take up dance as a career, then there are institutions that offer dance itself as a core curriculum. They can do a bachelor's in performing arts, they can do bachelor's in specific subjects also, like bachelor's in Bharatnatyam or bachelor's in music or bachelor's in theater. So I would suggest that they start looking at those career options rather than doing or exploring some other options. If they are very sure that this is the way for them, performing arts is the way out for them, then I would suggest that they start looking out for these options right now. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, still, since dance is something which is never considered mainstream, like at least in India. So, people will have lot of I mean to say, doubts in their mind, like as to like now it might look very interesting. So, what if after 4 5 years, like what if things don't work as planned? So those doubts will be there, like even in the person who is thinking about it, and also even in the minds of the parents as well, right? So that's something. These are some questions which keep wandering. So what would be your answer for that?
Yeah. So, Arunaji, coming to the security aspect, today
Mhm.
I doubt any job has any kind of security.
Mhm.
Ask Bharatji.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's right. That's
So
right.
no job has any kind of any security that had probably 20 years ago. And they told that, okay, if you have a government job, you're settled. If you're an engineer, you do so and you're settled in life, you will get a good job. But today, the best of engineers from the best of colleges, in fact, recently I read a report about Harvard Law College and Harvard MBA graduates are not getting jobs today. Okay, what more do you need in terms of security? If the best of the best universities, the best of the best intellectual crowd is not getting a job, then what are we talking about job security? Careers are never about the security aspect. Careers are something that help you grow and evolve and learn a lot more about yourself. Money will come. I know it is cliche to say this. Security in terms of artha, as in the wealth part of it is essential for life. But as a dancer, as a performing artist, you will figure out ways.
No,
So that will come.
it's an interesting question and interesting observation as well, right? So when somebody is investing in learning something, looking at the monetary aspects of it, versus you're learning something to express and do something with what your heart calls for, would be completely different. So if the certification is to say, okay, I need to have a certificate so that I land a job as a dance instructor, versus I need to learn dance because I can express myself in whatever ways I want, would would have a lot of different open doors. I'm saying this with confidence because I have seen people coming to our office. I work in an IT company. I have seen people coming into our office doing dance classes every week for people to unwind. I have, like Deeptima mentioned, it is like the dance movement therapy that she does, right? This has got nothing to do with people who want to pursue dance as a career or to take it to the next level. This is for people to unwind, get into the flow and get into the rhythm of doing things, because the entire day you're sitting in front of a computer, looking at codes, doing stuff. But if the flow is not there, your mind gets blocked, your energies get blocked. So dancers are called into offices today to conduct these things for people to unwind as they see it. But what actually dance is doing internally is getting them into flow, into a rhythm, and to connect with themselves. Those are the kind of careers that is opening out, Arunaji. This is not just about being a dance instructor to go do dance teaching as a career, but how can you apply this dance into different fields? Where can you go next? That is a career that is opening out into the future. And for children who are today sitting here and listening to it, if I become a dancer today for my own expression, can I take it as a career? Absolutely, yes. And this is something that may not be a main career, but at least in one of the careers that you will take up in the future, there is so many of them. There is Lila Gurukulam has started posting a lot of new careers that are coming out in the future. And if you start following those articles, you will see for every new career that is coming in, some sort of artistic expression, humanities, soft skills are linked back to it. And this will give you more insights about what is going to happen next. One of it is that. And then there was again another question that come in the chat about theater art. Does it also come under expressing art, and will it help children in mental health? Before
Yes.
we answer that question, Deeptima, I want to go
Yes.
back to what you spoke earlier this morning before we were discussing the timing and all of that today, right? When I asked you what is your profession, there's one more question that I wanted to ask you. Dance movement therapy. Why? You had a beautiful explanation to your career of what you do when you spoke about in the morning. If you can just bring it back, then we can go back to answer the question about.
Yeah, I think that is a prelude to Suvarna ji's question also about mental health aspect coming into picture. So many a times we lack words, right? So many times vocabulary fails short to express something. Language is not enough. And interestingly, 90 to 95% of our communication is body language, right? So what
Non-verbal.
is on our mind is expressed by the body, and the other way around too. So we can reach the mind through the body. So dance movement therapy is a approach. It's a psychotherapeutic approach, as in it's connected to the mind and it is therapeutic in nature, where we help the body and mind to have a seamless connection, to have a seamless conversation. So many a times when people are unable to express with words, we use their body to help them express. We use their body to help themselves heal. We use their body for a therapy purpose. It could be anything that is blocking them from expressing using words, or anywhere that they find it difficult for the words to come into play. Movement is what plays the role for them. And the simplest of the example is going back to your childhood or our children. The first language that they learn is actually movement. When a baby is in the womb, it cannot speak, it cannot hear, but it has movement. So when children like something that their parents are doing, or if they hate something that the parents are doing, you experience a kick. You experience some kind of a talk from the child through movement. So movement is the first language, right? So all of us have movement as a part of our vocabulary, body vocabulary. And dance movement therapists use this vocabulary to help people figure out answers. It is also used to understand the unconscious thoughts that are settled in as well. The trauma that you have gone through, to help you come out of that, for grief, for anxiety, and a lot of purposes like this, including patience. It all started, in fact, Bharaji, interestingly, it all started as a therapeutic approach. It started in the US during the World War II. And it was found out that talk therapy was not helping, occupational therapy was not helping the war survivors. And that's when dancers were called in, and they started connecting with dance and movements.
Yep.
So dance movement therapy is not where we tell you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it's a way, it's a creative way of expressing yourself with your body, and a therapist will be there to facilitate and help you understand your own body and your own movements and your own expressions better. That is what dance movement therapy is.
Yeah. And now, segueing into the question that Swarnaji has asked, how does theater art help in mental wellness and well-being and expressing emotions, right? There could be people who are not very good at communication in general setup, but theater, when you're playing a character which you are not in a day-to-day basis, you're taking the role and you're playing the role for the scene that you're playing, where you can express your emotions completely. Because for me, if I have to go to the office tomorrow and if I have to be in a meeting, I cannot be dramatic like that. It's not about not being emotional. I can express my emotional, but to what level? I don't need to have theatrics in my day-to-day life. I'm in a way, though I'm seriously super excited about some idea that comes up and I want to present, I cannot be at my dramatic best, like how I am at office, I'm at home or in a close friend setup. We are suppressing our emotions in a lot of ways because that is what your work setup demands from you. But theater is again a form of expression where you are playing a role that you are not, where nobody is judging you saying, hey, this guy acted like this. This is a character who has a character of shouting, screaming, crying, laughing, or whatever it is, right? You're expressing through that. So all your emotions that you're supposed to express, which we usually hold back, kind of gets expressed there. It helps a lot. Coming back to the question about theatrics and career and profession and how it links to training and soft skills and everything again, not just for our mental wellness and well-being and this, there are people who are training people from different professions using dramatics. Like what Deeptima was mentioning, 95% of our communication is non-verbal. So when you're working in a multicultural organization, for example, you cannot speak the language that other people are speaking because everybody has a different language, different way of expression. But then there are certain things that will come out naturally. As soon as somebody's face is lit up and glowing, you know that they're happy. You can speak to them. You see a gloom on their face because the face is expressing what they're feeling that comes out. And then there are a lot of them. There are people who do trainings to people to enhance their communication skills, their storytelling, how to pitch an idea to a top investor through dramatics. So there are companies, there are theater artists who are coming to train professionals to say how they can use a little bit of emotion, a little bit of an expression than just doing it with a straight phrase in the way we do it today, using theatrics and dramatics. That is something that's happening in the world, and they charge a bomb for it. It's not like you are getting a role to play in a theater and that's all it is. OTT has taken away all of those stage dramas now. No, dramatics is going into a different field. It is evolved now. So they are going into coaching people. We are talking about humanoids that are going to be made, and you'll see them in the household very soon. Today, it's just a robot with a face for the sake of having a face. But then, I don't know if how many of you remember this movie called Artificial Intelligence that came long ago. How natural those robots were. They used to express emotions. They used to mimic a human being. If we have to build humanoids which are going to replace human beings for some of this profession like elderly care, personal care, and being with people to give them occupational moral support, you need to have, if even AI comes in, if robots are there to replace people, they need to have emotions. You need to mellow down your voice when they're talking to them to console them. You need to be expressive. So that is something that requires people from the theatrics and dramatic background to train those humanoids and robots to express. So that's a career of the future again. In the list of 100, there is one more career that's called what do you call it? Elderly care, personalized mental health coaches, which are AI enhanced. It's not that some person is doing it, but robots would do it. But there is a person who's going to teach those programs on how to emote and how to use a language, how to be ethically right and culturally applicable. So these are all the things that dramatics applied arts will help. So a long answer for the question, but I hope you got the answer.
Yeah,
And
actually, I was just about to add the old age care, Bharaji,
hmm,
as therapists, right? There is a lot of need for the old age now. The youngsters, the population of youngsters is coming down if you see at a
yes,
global level. So that's elderly care is a career of the present and of the future to look after or look for.
right. Great. Anyone else? Any other questions? Nothing on the chat. Okay. Anything else that you would like to add, Deeptima, about how this science and art of expressive uh, careers and skills is going to shape the futures of tomorrow, shape the jobs of tomorrow, people tomorrow? Anything that you'd like to add in there?
You're asking me, Bharaji,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it
There
was
is
a question? Okay.
no, there's not a question, but yeah, I was asking you if you want to extend on how these performing arts are going to shape the future of our students tomorrow, how it's going to help them in their career or in their jobs or whatever they take up as a profession. How is it is it
So I think you brought that out very clearly, Bharaji, as part of a storytelling. Storytelling is a theme that is universal for most professions. You ultimately sell your idea to somebody through a story, right? And that could be a corporate company, or it could be a company that makes movies. It could be an animation company. It could be an advertising company, or any of the companies that you see across the world. In some way or the other, storytelling is a big part of their skill, right?
Mhm.
As a professional, you need to have storytelling as a part of your skill. And at the core, it's ultimately about you expressing yourself in one way or the other, right?
Mhm.
And expressive arts come into play there. You're talking about robots. I'm talking, let's take one step back and look at animation industry today, right? It's a huge place, and expressive arts are needed big time there. A
Right.
character needs to express, whether it is through voice, or it is through their facial expressions, or it is through your body language.
Mhm.
The cartoons, the characters, the anime need to express themselves, and that's where a person who has a theater background, and in Indian perspective, Natya Shastra has theater as in dramatics, it has got music, it has got dance as a part of it. So all of them come together there.
Yeah.
So learning of Natya Shastra, it is a Shastra after all, and it is included as part of the Gurukulam sciences, right?
Yeah.
Children are taught Natya Shastra because it's an important skill that everybody needs to have, irrespective of who you are and from which industry you come from. So
Mhm.
um, Natya Shastra is something that everybody has to learn, is what I believe. And coming to careers, yes, I think to sum up everything so far, one, definitely as a dancer and a performing artist and a dance trainer. Apart from that, as a therapist, as a person who works in the background for the mental well-being of the society. And as a trainer for a soft skill or a corporate company or any other companies that require expressions as a need, a skill, right? All of these are a career perspective that I see for artists, especially performing artists and expressive art forms.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of things as we were talking about earlier. All these arts are taken as an extracurricular thing, and people used to say you should do it as a part-time. But now we see that these part-time things have become mainstream. There are careers built on top of these expressive arts, and a lot of people who are, and you are an example, right? You came from a graduation of electrical electronics engineering. You had a career in a corporate world, and then you took up arts as one of the professions that you want to get into. You transition from there to here. But there are a lot of people who are doing both. It's not like you need to let go of your hobbies and your passion for arts while you're pursuing your career or academics. I mean, people can look up this name called Harish Shivaramakrishnan. I don't know if a lot of you people know. There's a band called Agam. There's a very famous song called uh, what is that? Forgot the name. Rang,
Agam has many songs.
Yeah, Rangapura Vihara.
Yeah,
So
Rangapura Vihara, and I think their Shiva Panchakshara Stotram also is brilliant.
So
So,
the guy who's the lead singer, Harish Varamakrishnan, he is a chief design officer in Cred, the payment app.
between.
He had worked with Adobe and Google and all of that. He's not that he's left his job and doing this. He's a full-time artist, a full-time chief design officer. So he's both. It's not that you need to leave one to become one. You can do both at the same time and be happy and successful in both of it. And whatever we use and we learn in performing arts is anyways knowingly unknowingly applicable in any careers that we take up. So that is something that always transitions, like you mentioned, the flow and the rhythm of dance coming into your the microchip and the flow of energy in the electricity in the analog circuits, and your passion for architecture of building big things and the architecture that was happening in the micro level in the chips. Everything is connected. So these are all human skills, soft skills that cannot be replaced by technology. This is something that will become even more demanding rather as we go into the future, and there's always a scope for more. I think that is a good summary to live with. How can one be good at storytelling, or how can one learn the skill? Practice.
Practice and expressive arts. You come to expressive arts, you'll be trained to tell stories in different ways. So
My grandmother, my grandfather, all the grandparents that we had, they never went into any certified storyteller courses. There are these days, you can be a certified storyteller. There are programs that will teach you how to become a storyteller. They break down the storytelling part into saying how do you set a context, where do you take it to the peak, how do you draw the attention, hold the audience, how do you drop them in the end. There are courses to do that. How well our grandparents used to tell stories to us. How many of you remember the stories that our grandparents have told us? And forget about the grandparents, even going before that, right? How well our scriptures have described the stories of all these beautiful things that is actual science narrated to us as a part of the story. So storytelling is not something that you have to go and get trained. It is there naturally within us. All that you need to do is tell stories. Just keep telling stories. And if you try to break it down and make it academic, I don't think we're doing justice to it. So every time you need to tell a story, it's more of the template trying to be forcefully fit into it than you trying to naturally express it. So that is something that happens. You could, I mean, forget grandchildren and Vedas and scriptures that we had where all the Itihasas and the Puranas, right? There's so many beautiful stories articulating a profound concept. Come down to a small baby, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old toddler, how they tell stories to convince you, how they tell stories to express what they did, what they want to ask from you, who's training them, where did they pick up the skill. They are beautiful storytellers, right? Children are storytelling every single day. They're selling things to you through their stories. As they grow, somewhere it is lost, and then we say, how do I go back and pick up that skill again? You might have told 100 stories, Swarnaji, right? Why do you need to learn it again? It is there. All that you need to do is practice. One of the things that happens very well as a channel to bring that back is through games, through engagement. When you're playing these games, there are a lot of games where you need to build a narrative. So you're going to create a narrative saying, this is what I'm going to do, and you're going to play a game there. And play brings out a lot of storytelling because you're not doing it as a conscious thing as a person, but you're doing it as a part of the game, right? So that rekindles that storytelling inside a person. Games are a very good way to engage through it. And then just telling stories is the best way to get yourself trained. Tell stories. Helps, Swarnaji. And you should see the children in Lila Gurukulam, right? Deepti is one of the parents. I'm one of the parents there. And we see our children when they're playing games, the kind of stories that they come back and tell. I did this today, this game I played, and we had so much things happening. They built this, I built that. They build cities, they build their own ecosystems, and they have a story to it. They name their own countries, and they have a big story going on there. So that is something that they're doing on a daily basis. As they grow up, till they're 18, they'll keep doing this. That becomes a natural process for them. That is something that keeps happening, but somewhere we're letting it go away, thinking, okay, this is not needed anymore. But make it a habit. Just keep doing it. Great. Nice questions, and nice interactions today, and a lot of amazing insights. A lot of things that we again discovered, saying how someone can get into a profession of arts, what drives a person to get there. Is it really necessary to go on through academic structure of getting a course and only then starting a career as a performing artist? Or you can just do it as passion, and then it becomes your profession to drive your passion for further. It need not be that if you are qualified as academically being something, you need to pursue only that. You can still do these things. How these applied arts are coming back into mainstream careers, and helping people in different jobs and domains. So a lot of interesting insights. We also touched upon a few of the future careers that requires emotion, human skills, training, and knowing about it. So a beautiful session again. A good one to wind up our Sunday. Thanks a lot, Deeptima, for sharing the insights and sharing all the things that we didn't know about it. And thanks for all the people who are on the forum for all the questions and the feedback. And if nobody has any questions further, we could.